There's a picture. My daughter found it, and it's this picture of Walter on top of Micah's shoulders with his mouth open, and then to his left is Will Richards, just like this, and in the background is Elijah Martin, and it's like almost the perfect picture. Symmetrically, it was beautiful, perfect, and with those three guys right there, I think it was probably like the signature photo that I saw from the national championship game.
Another Dooley Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, welcome into another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, coming to you from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. Chris Harry from FloridaGators.com is going to join us today. I was trying to think of who I really wanted to have on, and I mean, I would have loved to have had Todd Golden on, but he's busy. But and Chris was embedded. I mean, he was in the middle of all this, so it'll be fun talking to him about what happened, obviously out in San Antonio. Coach Spurrier, of course, on Monday, and I'm sure we'll have a lively discussion about it as well. And then Chris Doring is going to join us on the next Thursday, and he was there too, but also we're going to talk a little football with him as well, because obviously Florida spring game's coming up, and there are a bunch of spring games going on. Those that are having them are having spring games, although I think the luster is kind of worn off the idea that spring games are really fun to watch. This one will not be, because we'll get to that a little bit later. But anyway, let us get it to our Royal Blue starting five. It is brought to you by Randy Royal over at Royal Blue. They do a great job over there, giving you all your boating needs, and Palaka, and appreciate him so much for being the sponsor of our Royal Blue starting five. And let's start with this. We're Titletown again. I mean, that's the bottom line. And the funny thing is, there was a drought, but I mean, it wasn't a drought. I mean, Houston's got the drought. They have never won a national championship in anything, or anything that I can think about. There was a drought because they hadn't won a national title in football or basketball since 08 football would have been the last thing they won. Yeah. So, there was a drought, but I mean, now you have to look at Florida, and we got this discussion. In fact, I know Lee Scott called our radio show. Lee's an old buddy of mine, and we used to do a show together. And he called, and he was pointing out that you got to consider Florida a blue blood in basketball now, because of what they were able to do and what they've done since the year 2000. I mean, they're one of the top programs in the country. This made it one of the top programs in the country. Look, Billy did what he did, but then there's been, scattered success. I mean, Mike White getting all the way to the Elite Eight was certainly a successful season, but this takes you to another realm, another dimension. I'll never forget sitting there, and I was doing a story, and I can't remember which one it was for I think it was just a back nine thing. And, or it might have been a high five, but anyway, doesn't really matter. And I was like, hey, look, if they win out, now this is at the end of the regular season. Maybe it was with one game to go in the regular season. I can't remember exactly. But I said, if they win out, they will tie the record for the most wins in Florida history, set by the team that won 30 in a row in 2014. And I'm like, wow, now that'll probably not happen. That's what I was thinking. And then they did. They won out, ended up 36-4. Now that puts them in the pantheon of one of the great teams of all time. Not only that, but you have to look at what Florida did to go 17-4, if you count the tournament, in the SEC. Actually 18-4, because they beat Auburn in the tournament too, in the NCAA tournament. So they went 18-4 against SEC teams. And there's a million statistics and dynamics you can take to talk about how great this team ended up being. And it was special. There's no doubt about it. But the bottom line is going 8-2 against top 10 teams. Beating 4 number ones, because Auburn and Tennessee were ranked number one during the season. obviously the 1 seeds were Auburn was the number 1 overall seed, so that's another win there. And then Houston was a 1 seed. I mean, what they did, and we'll get to the 06, 07 thing in a minute, but what they did is just incredible. And what the reaction was of this community, not only going out to San Antonio, and I look, I'm not going to complain anymore ever about Florida basketball fans. And I have complained about them in the past because, I've been to Nashville and seen 100 Florida fans there and, 20,000 Kentucky fans. And it's kind of, even though Florida's had the same success in the last 25 years as Kentucky. Yeah, they have. They've had better success than Kentucky. But I always got on them because they never showed up. And they always leave. There'll be a tie game with 3 minutes to go and they want to beat the traffic and they leave. And I get mad at it. Okay. No more. I'm not ever saying anything negative about Florida basketball fans again. And they are different than football fans and baseball fans and everything. Everybody has their own little niche that they really, really, really care about. But certainly the basketball. This was another great stat. I think Denver Parlor put this one out. Denver, who does a great job with sports information over there, and boy, and that's the thing. Everybody that went there, including my daughter, just, I mean, you can't when you go to something like this, you're hoping for the greatest thing in the world, right? You want the game to end on the last play of the game. And you want to feel all this tension and you want to feel upset and then you want to feel happy and then upset, then happy. And at the end, you're exhilarated beyond belief. That's what you want. And that's what you got. You won the you won the Natty, man. And I'll give credit to all the Gator fans who showed up and all the Gator fans who showed up at all the different places in Gainesville. Gainesville was electric Monday night. There's no doubt about it. And of course, it all spilled onto University. One guy jumped off a light pole. He was okay, but they greased the light poles and he still somehow got up there. But the point is, it was just a perfect, it was an imperfect game, but a perfect ending to the season. It was hard. And it's supposed to be hard, okay? It better be hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it every year. It's hard. It's hard to win, and I know Mark Wise says this all the time. It's hard to win one game in the tournament. To win that many games, to win 6, and to beat the teams they did. And this was going to go back to that stat. The total seeding for the teams Florida played would have been 33. Now, that would be 2 ones, that'd be 2. A 3 would be, you'd add that in there. You know what I'm trying to say here. The total seeding would be 33, and that is the best. There's only one that has tied it, and that was North Carolina in 93 also played seeds that were 33. Now, again, going back to some of the old Bill Walton teams and everything, they don't even know if they seeded anybody then. But they didn't. The tournament wasn't the same. And that takes nothing away from UCLA. Believe me, they were the dominant program. But now, Florida is the only school in the world with 3 football and 3 basketball national championships. And that feels like what you think it should feel like. In other words, for Florida fans, it's been a rough time. I mean, look, we all know this. Going through what you went through in football. I mean, this was a program that looked back lovingly at an 0-10-1 season. Okay, those guys played hard. We still showed up for the games, although it wasn't like they sold them out. Anyway, the point being, you guys had it rough, and then you have it going, and then Billy leaves, and for the second time. So in basketball, things just never seem to be able to get great again. But they got great with Todd Golden. They got great with the players that played. Obviously, this was a special team. It's a team that I'm never going to forget and never going to talk badly about. They closed on a 35-21 run, and that was it for Houston. Certainly the last play was huge. They scouted it. They knew what was coming. They played it. They had the third option. Clayton showed that. I mean, that was the thing to me. Clayton's closing speed on Emmanuel Sharp for that last shot was incredible. Where he came from to where he got to and made it so if he shot it, it was going to get rejected back into the backcourt. And instead, of course, he let it go. And then that was just this craziness. You're sitting there and you're going, the ball's just bouncing around. Somebody get it. And then Condon comes up and gets it. And we celebrate. And we celebrated. I can tell you, peeps, that Robbie and I were together. We were with our wives at Gator's dockside, which we went to for 4 different games. We couldn't get into the swamp. I can tell you, the swamp was just packed, wall to wall. So we went there and we had a great time. And but we were nervous wrecks. Couldn't eat. That was the thing. We had this big plate of wings that they had gotten. Nobody could eat. We're just looking at them. We're like, I don't know. I'm too nervous to eat. But afterwards, Robbie and I actually went to my wife and Robbie's wife went downtown and got into that mess in the rain. We said, hey, we're good right here. And we both had a celebratory shot. I think it was Crown Royal. It was very nice, very smooth. But that I stopped right there, believe me. Anyway, it was just an unbelievable night and an unbelievable situation. Let's get to number 2 on our Royal Blue starting 5. And that is Walter Clayton, the legacy that he is leaving behind. Certainly in this game, I thought he forced things early and they were really focused on taking him out of the game. But in the end, when he had to make the big plays and the big shots, he did it. And he made the biggest defensive play of the year. He did everything he needed to do to win the game. I thought it was poetic justice or irony, would it be, that he ended up in the arms of Micah Handlogden. Because when Micah got hurt last year in the SEC championship game, Walter was down there in his face telling him it was going to be okay. And, now they're embracing again and under totally different terms. Micah Handlogden bet on wanting to be part of this, and it worked out pretty good for him. I know he burned his redshirt year, and one day he may regret that, but I don't think he will. I don't think you can possibly regret going through what you went through and watching the game. Of course, Walter was the MOP, the most outstanding player. They've got him up to number 12 on the CBS mock draft, by the way. And that would be very cool because that would make him a lottery pick and the money would be very good. I hope that happens for him. I still don't know that they're going to go that high, but certainly he was the superstar of the tournament. He's the guy everybody's going to remember from this tournament, Walter Clayton. That's great. And that's the other thing I was thinking about yesterday. This team is so similar in so many ways to the 06 team. Not so much the 07. 07 was a different team. 07 was leathered and feeling the pressure and everything. 06 kind of came out of nowhere. They won 17 in a row, and we're like, what in the world's going on? I remember Billy let me come in, and this again was how not buttoned down they were at this time because they hadn't won anything really. They'd been early exits from the tournament. So, and that's how you always get judged. We know that. But Billy let me have an entire day just hanging around with him, and it was just great. It was an easy story to write. He gave us access to our photographer to do everything, take pictures of his workouts and everything. It was really cool. But anyway, that team was so great. But then when you think about, okay, well, who was the best player on the 06 team? Well, I can make an argument for Corey Brewer. I can make an argument for Joakim Noah. I can make an argument for Lee Humphrey, the all-time leader in three-pointers made in the NCAA tournament. I can make an argument for Al Horford, who is my argument that he probably was the best player on that team. I can make an argument for Torian Green. And that's what this team is. Now, look, Walter is clearly the head of the snake. We all get that. But could this team have done what it did without Will Richard, the glue, as I call him, of this team? No. And kept him in the game in the first half of this championship game. Could they have done it without Elijah Martin? Elijah Martin, not only the stuff he did on the court and gave Florida physicality they didn't have last year, especially defensively. But when we saw all these videos of early season workouts or preseason workouts that they started showing when they were getting to the Final Four, Elijah was the guy making them do everything. He was the guy saying, here's what we have to do. You want to be great? Here's what we have to do. Trust me, I've been to a Final Four. I'm telling you, this team doesn't do anything without Elijah Martin. What does it do without Alex Condon, who had an incredible run of games, and then teams started trying to take him away, but he still was making all kinds of plays and doing the little things he needed. Somebody was complaining about the way he played, and I told him to go back and look at the tape of the Auburn game and how many times he closed out on a three-point shooter and made them take a bad shot. These are the kind of little things you have to do to win. Do they go anywhere without Tommy Houck? Of course not. And this guy was like unbelievable. I mean, you can go right down the list. And that's what I'm saying. This is why it is like 06. It was a team. Walter was the guy who got a lot of the publicity and a lot of the headlines, but it was a team. And teams win. That's the bottom line. Individuals are part of the team, and if they become part of the team, they win. I think you're getting my point. Maybe you're not. Maybe you shouldn't. All right, that is number 2 on our Royal Blue starting 5. Let's get to number 3. And, we talked this last week about how it's the quietest spring ever. And, of course, you can't hear the spring because of the din of the basketball team. So spring is just kind of coming and gone, and we're going to have a spring game on Saturday at 1 o'clock. And, it'll be a lot of fun out there. The Johnny Townsend's going to have his thing in the north end zone again. That'll be fun. Obviously, there's going to be a celebration there, too, for basketball. So it's going to be a big day for the Gator Nation. A lot of people are going to come to it. It's going to be probably one of the biggest crowds they ever had for a spring football game. I think when Tebow was taking over, so that would have been the 07 season as a sophomore, that was like the biggest crowd I think they ever had for a spring game. And I think this is going to be like that for this because people want to come and celebrate the basketball too. So anyway, but there is a spring game, and I don't know what am I looking for? I'm just curious to see we're not going to see the starting quarterback. A lot of other guys are going to be out, but you're going to see a lot of young talent, and that's the thing to look at. I know that everybody's talking about Aiden Mizell's bulked up, and he's going to be a more physical receiver and all this. And again, you just go by what guys are saying, and we'll see. At least we'll be able to come at you Monday with an idea of what this football team is going to be, because we'll watch that and we'll go see that played. But it is an unusual situation. I remember the spring game that Florida was playing when the 06 team had come back, but they'd already had their celebration. But they were coming down the stands, and people were losing their mind. And I that's when I said to somebody, I said, Tebow's Elvis. These guys are the Beatles. And actually, Lee Humphrey looks a little like Ringo. But, these guys are the Beatles. The people are screaming and yelling and losing their mind. But anyway, it should be a fun day out at the swamp. And hopefully you guys are all going to be there, all you that can make it. And we'll have a good time. All right, let's get to number 4 on our Royal Blue starting 5. And that is that baseball pulled out a win over FSU. Now, I'm a big believer that winning begats winning or bleeds into winning. In other words, you just watched the basketball team win the national championship, and you're going to play FSU at home. You better win that game. You've got to hold up your end of it. And I think maybe it helped. Maybe that's why they pitched better than they pitched in a long time. Maybe that's why Clemente was throwing heat by all those FSU hitters. Whatever the reason, it worked out really well, and that was good. And Florida takes the series from FSU. That's an important win for them. Now, They got to keep it going, and they got to, hopefully this can be a spark to go forward. Don't forget, they got a home series this weekend. It's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series, so they play tonight, and we'll give you the times and the TV on all that in a minute. But I mean, they need to keep it going. You got Missouri. Missouri's at the bottom of the conference. They're not any good, but to be honest with you, right now you're not any good. I hate to say that, but you're not a good team right now. You're floundering around, and you've got to start winning conference games. This is a good opportunity to win. I'm not saying you have to sweep. I remember last year, Florida was going to Missouri, and Jeff was telling me, "Oh, I think sweep." And I'm like, "Sweep? I'll take 2 out of 3." Well, there was a sweep, and it was Florida who got swept. It's a tough sport. Baseball is not a sport where the best team always wins. We all know that. You've got to go and get this done. You got to, at the very minimum, take 2 out of 3. I'd like to see you win them all, but you got to, at the very minimum, take 2 out of 3, or we can start paying attention to other sports. No offense. No offense. I always say no offense because that's Rodney Dangerfield's line from Caddyshack, where he says, "Wang, don't tell him you're Jewish. This is a restricted club." No offense. All right, let's move along to number 5 on our Royal Blues starting 5, and I'm wearing the hat from Augusta National because the Masters is today, starts today, and it'll be going on all week. We'll give you the times and everything on that in a minute. But I did watch a lot of it this morning, actually. And believe it or not, this kid, Noah Kent, is tied for the lead, at least now. Again, this very year, 5 holes in. But Noah Kent, for those of you who don't know, is a transfer from Iowa who transferred to Florida. Now, he's not eligible till next year, but he got into the Masters because he was a runner-up in the U.S. Amateur. So Florida's certainly happy to have him, and you can see what he can do. Birdied 3 and 4. 4, man, they've got the tee up on 4. And you're hitting like 8 and 7 irons in there, and he stiffed it in there. So anyway, I am just looking forward to the Masters. I am going to veg out. And the great thing is, as much as I want Billy Horschel and Noah Kent and anybody else who's playing, I'm not even sure what Gators are in the field this year. It's just relaxing just to sit and watch it. And I don't want to care as much as I've cared about Florida basketball, about anything for a while. I don't want to care about anything. I want to just watch games and go, "Oh, that's interesting." That was just too much. And that's what everybody is saying that I've talked to. I know in my family it's that way. Now, my daughter had the time of her life. The best thing that's ever happened in her life, she said. She is now 3-0 in national championship basketball games. How about that? But she went to the first 2. She was there. Anyway, just to be able to enjoy the Masters, the serenity of it, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to this weekend. And, of course, we got the baseball series. We've got the spring game. We'll have the celebration and everything. All that stuff is going on. So it's going to be a lot of fun this weekend. We'll have plenty to talk about, again, on Monday with Coach Spurrier. All right. That's going to do it for our Royal Blues starting 5. We'll take a break. When we come back, Chris Harry is going to join us from FloridaGators.com. This is another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Here are just a few reasons why doing business with the Royal Blue puts you at the helm of your boating lifestyle. 1, the longer we have your listing, the lower percentage commissions you will pay. 2, survey reimbursement for qualified buyers. 3, detail reimbursement for qualified sellers. 4, on-the-water delivery orientation availability. Call us today to schedule a consultation to see what Royal Blue can do to solve all of your boating needs. Call Randy at 850-974-1294. Hey, let's talk about something that's been a real game changer for many people, including me. BMI TeleMed is one of our sponsors. They're the weight loss specialists and can help you tackle that stubborn belly fat. You know, the kind that usually creeps up once you hit your 40s. Bob Parado and Charlie Gonzalez, 2 UF-trained pharmacists, work with their medical director to prescribe and deliver the same meds that helped me lose 50 pounds. Yep, 50 pounds. That belly fat, it's not just about looks. It's unhealthy and makes you feel sluggish. So now's the time to do something about it before spring and summer roll around. If you're anywhere in Florida, BMI TeleMed, simple online telehealth platform makes it easy. Your weight loss meds get delivered right to your door fast. From my experience, you feel full sooner, eat less, but can keep enjoying the foods that you love, just in smaller portions. Plus, it helps with blood sugar and cravings. Do yourself a favor, head to bmitelemed.com to set up a free private consultation. No obligations, no contracts. These Gators know their stuff. You'll look better, feel better, and be healthier. Visit bmitelemed.com today.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Okay, welcome back to another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging, coming to you from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. It's great to bring on my good friend Chris Harry, who, of course, was there and embedded and all over and has done just a masterful job of covering it. I know that, I'll tell you this, and I'm just going to brag on myself. I won an award for the 06 team for covering that, and somebody said, you want Pat Dooley covering your team. No, you really want Chris Harry covering your team if you're going on a long run in a championship, because he does a great job. Chris,
Very kind words, Pat.
Have you recovered yet, or how are you?
I'm not quite recovered yet, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's just that life goes on. I tell you what, the San Francisco rollover right into the Final Four was pretty crazy. That barely had time to do your laundry before you're packing a bag and heading out. But obviously, it was whirlwind. It was eventful. Can't say I've really ever been through anything like that, to be on the front row like I was and to be there with those guys. It's just pretty amazing. Yep.
I thought one of the poignant moments, somebody made an illustration of this, was that when Handlogda went down last year, the guy on him, was and consoling him was Walter, and then they were in each other's arms at the end of this. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was, and it was genuine. It was organic, and that's just how. It's really a kind of like a microcosm of this team. There's a picture. My daughter found it, and it's this picture of Walter on top of Micah's shoulders with his mouth open, and then to his left is Will Richards, just like this, and in the background is Elijah Martin, and it's like almost the perfect picture. Symmetrically, it was beautiful, perfect, and with those three guys right there, I think it was probably like the signature photo that I saw from the national championship game. But to your point, yes, think just all the. Every time you ask any of these guys after a game and, the comeback and all stuff, they talk about trust, they talk belief, and they talk about love for each other. And I think it definitely manifested itself in the post game and, in real time between the lines when the action was going on.
The interesting thing to me is we always hear about, every coach brings in his team and he says, you guys have to look at the guy next to you and want to play for him, and you got to care about him, and it's got to be important. We got to build a culture, but it's not easy to do. And look, there's not been that many teams at Florida that have had a culture like this one. I think the 06 team was like that. They all loved each other. They all loved playing with each other. 07, by then they were all freaking out over all the pressure that was on them. But it's hard to. It's not like you can just snap your fingers and have a culture like that and have guys that really want to play with each other and want to be around each other.
Yeah, and those 04s, they all came in with each other, and obviously Lee was there already when they got there, and the 14s were that way, I believe, also with those four seniors that all played together and won more games than any class in history. So yes, to your point, it's very hard. It's 5 times harder now because of the transfer portal, because you have to identify players that can get along with each other, and you have no margin for error. because once they're there, they're there. Of course, and you got to deal with them that year. And I think Todd Golden did an incredible job, and his staff did an incredible job of mixing and matching guys and finding guys that could coexist with each other. I go back, and I was on a radio show earlier today where I said, when Elijah Martin was the guy the coaches wanted, okay, and there's no way the defense could survive the way it played last year. They needed a guy on the perimeter. He was the ideal guy, but it wasn't until he came on campus and went out with Walter and went out with Will, the two other leaders on the team, and hung out with them, and that those two guys signed off on Elijah Martin, that it was going to happen. Give Elijah Martin credit; he knew that, and he wanted to be here, but he wanted to get a feel of those guys also, because they all have same goals. They want to win championships here. They want to go play after, in their college basketball afterlife. They only need 24 hours to figure that out. But my goodness gracious, those three guys, they're every bit as to me what those 04s were, what those 14s were. Those are the three guys that I think, obviously, come on, Alex Condon, Thomas Houck, of course, those guys are fantastic. Denzel Aberdeen stepped up, made some big plays. But when you think of this team, they're going to think of those three guys. However, when people ask me, who's better, 06, 07, I mean, those guys are themselves. And when they think of this team, when you think of the 06, 07s, you thought of those four guys. I think when you think of this team above and beyond, you're going to think of Walt. And Walt is, I believe, has to be now tagged as the greatest player in school history for, what he did. The accomplishments when you're writing stories where you're mentioning Walter Clayton and Larry Bird and Wilt Chamberlain in the second paragraph. I mean, what? That's not to diminish those other two guys. I just want to say, because I love Will Richard. I love what Elijah Martin brought to this team, especially when it came to stuff he did in the background. But Walter Clayton, what do they say now? He's him. That's the guy. That's the guy now.
It goes back to something else you covered with me, and that was when they were making comparisons of Lauren Hager to Babe Ruth. We're like,
right, yeah, that's a little different. Yeah,
that's a pretty good comparison. You want to be compared to those kind of people.
Yeah, to those names. Yeah.
I do. It was just amazing to watch all this, and again from afar. This is the first time I haven't been at a Gator championship, but I did think that just from reading all your stuff, especially, that there were similarities to the 06 team in that there was a star in this. There was a head of the snake here with Clayton, and there really wasn't with the 06 team. But you couldn't have done it without any one of those pieces. If any one of those pieces was not there, if Will Richards, the glue, I call him the glue of the team, wasn't there, you aren't going to win. If Elijah Martin doesn't come in and get those guys to have preseason workouts like they've never had before, you're not winning. If Condon, doesn't come back healthy. If Micah, I mean, what he did was amazing to give up his redshirt year because he wanted to be part of it and he wanted to help, and he did.
And don't forget, I'll just throw in an obscure name because he disappeared in the NCAA tournament. What if Urban Klausjar doesn't hit some of those shots he hits during that injury stretch when Elijah Martin and Walter Clayton weren't playing? Maybe they lose a couple of those games, and the seeding is different, and they get the butterfly effect going on. So everyone had a hand in it. Denzel Aberdeen, when Elijah couldn't play, and Elijah said, even when Elijah was healthy, let him start. Let him start the next couple games, just to keep the rhythm going. And to your point, 100%. I mean, you go back to 06, 07, they're not winning without Lee Humphrey. They're not. It's like they had a mantra back then. Lee still talks about it now. He goes, layups, dunks, and Lee Humphrey. That's what the goal was for that team. So this team was a lot of everything and a lot of Walt in the end.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, have you ever really kind of gone into how he's able to keep his cool so well? I mean, so unflappable. I mean, we used to criticize Riley Kugel for not having good, people say body language, but if you look at Walt's body language, it's like he's not even playing in a big game, but it's his way of keeping cool.
Yeah, he has a great smile when you see it. You just don't see it that often, but he usually saves it to the end of the game. And even like after they win, I'm not saying the last couple games. I mean, because he certainly unleashed it for those. But I think that's just how he's wound. Uh, make a big shot. He's not jumping up and down, and because next play.
He's getting back on defense. Yeah.
He's trying to get back on defense, or he's thinking about. I mean, the game's not over yet till the horn sounds, but that bleeds down, man. And everybody unleashes their emotion in their own particular way. I think that's what makes him so cold blooded in his ability to come up with shots when they really really matter. And the other night, Houston made it tough on him, man. And obviously, I think he had 7 assists. I think he had 5 in the first half or something. He accepted that. He accepted this isn't going to be my night, man. And and Will accepted the challenge. You have to do something.
Yeah.
But then when it mattered, they changed up a little bit. He was able to attack a couple free throws. I think first took the lid off for him when he was scoreless. I think through I want to say 30, however many minutes it was. But those and ones he had. The NBA people are going to look at those because he was able to attack the basket and get a couple just huge buckets. And that 3-pointer he hit out of the timeout on a play, I asked Hubby about it right after the game. He said they ran it once against Alabama in the SEC championship and it worked. And why don't we go back to that right here? It's just he ran circles till he got till Emmanuel Sharp wasn't able to get through another screen. They just ball screened him to death and then walked out an open shot and finally made one. And I think that kept his 3-point streak alive. Way to go out. He made one from the Kentucky game last year to every game through this season. Just a remarkable.
Yeah, no, he's been incredible. It is too. The other thing that I think, and again, I'm not a big believer in ranking teams, and we do it all the time. It's what lists are what we live for. But when you talk about 06 and when you talk about this year, I mean, you can talk about 14 too. But the bottom line is, I don't think anybody's ever had to go through this kind of gauntlet because with 14 SEC teams getting in, they handled it. They ended up with a better SEC record than Auburn did because if you count the tournament, and beat Auburn twice. I mean, this has to go down as one of the great teams in NCAA history. I mean, I'm sorry that they only won by 2 in the championship game, but it's got to go down as one of those.
Well, just go back to at the end of the season. So I think they ended the season. I'm just trying to go back. I mean, it's still such a blur. They won at Alabama. They were a top 5 team. They won at home against Ole Miss. I believe they were just outside the rankings, but ended up going to the Sweet 16. Beat Missouri, which was number 15. Beat Alabama, which was number 5. Beat Tennessee in the SEC championship. They were number 4, I think. And except for Norfolk State, the rest of the teams the rest of the teams are ranked except for UConn, which was the 2-time national champion. Exactly. So the last 2 games they beat number 1 seeds. Texas Tech was a top 10 team. Maryland was number 11. I mean, it was a gauntlet that what is it? I think the only one other team, I think North Carolina in 08 played to the seed. 1 seed that played 16-8, 4, 2 and 1. And I think Florida missed that by 1 by playing the 3 seed Texas Tech. So yes, a gauntlet like no other. Plus, winning the SEC tournament, winning the tournament in the best conference single season in the last 2 decades. Phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because everybody was saying, "Oh, I don't want to play in the SEC tournament final because that you're going to get tired." And then people were saying, "Well, the UConn game is the game that will kind of make them sharper, because they survived and advance." I don't think either one of those things is true. You go and you try to win every game. You can't go into a locker room and go, "Hey, I know we've been saying bust your butt, but today we're going to take it easy because we don't want to win."
Yeah, and Todd Golden's not going to say that. I mean, Todd Golden wants to win, and he wants to systematically dismantle every team that he plays. Now, it doesn't work out that way, but that's the mentality. And yeah, he did say some stuff about last year playing 4 games, losing your starting center. Is it worth it? And yeah, you think like that. But I think he said that last year because everyone thought they were 6 or 7 seed going into the SEC tournament. They get to the final and they end up a 7. He said, "We did
Yeah.
all this work. We lost our center and we weren't rewarded for it." But to start your SEC tournament on a Friday, you got a chance to be a number 1 seed. They had every intention of going there to try to win that tournament. He pushed all the right buttons, Pat. From
He
the
did.
beginning of last year, throughout the season, after losses, his assistant coaches hit the right buttons at the right time. Carlin Hartman, phenomenal when he had to be. He's a very loud, booming voice, but he uses it at calculated times. Kevin Hovde, John Andrzejczyk, the coordinators, speaking up when they have to, but coming up with great game plans. Jonathan Sapphire, just Corey McRae, great staff. Knew this team very, very well. But also behind the scenes, these players just commandeering themselves and motivating themselves. And you mentioned the mini storylines, Micah. We've talked about Denzel and all these guys. Just it's one thing after another, and it all just aligned for him. It's really amazing.
It is, and I mean sometimes that's what it takes. It's got to align for you, and it certainly happened. Chris Harry coming to us, of course, from FloridaGators.com on our Big Mills Cheesesteaks Zoom line. I wanted to ask you about sight lines, but instead, let's move on to yes, no way.
It obviously impacted Houston, the best 3-point shooting team in the country this year. Was only, I think, 25% or 24% in the championship game. So it obviously had something to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we'll play yes, no, where, maybe brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteak. Street dining done the right way. We love Big Mills, and if you go there and say you listen to this podcast, you get free fries with your order. Chris Harry, yeah, yes, no,
Okay.
where, maybe. You want to go over there?
It's not that far from my crib here.
Oh, I know. All right, number 1 on yes, no, where, maybe. Florida will have 2 first-round draft picks in the NBA draft.
No.
I think there's a chance. I mean, because I think when somebody had Walter at 12 now,
Pretty cool.
and then
Good for
Condon
Walt.
could sneak into the bottom of it. But again, he's got to declare, right?
He's got to declare, and also, I mean, he didn't have the greatest tournament in the world. He had some great moments at some times, but I think that he's got to show that he can handle some physicality. He's not that. I mean, he's 230. The people he'd be going up against in the NBA are 250 and 260, and
Grown
he's
men.
got to work on some stuff. I'm not saying he can't play in the NBA, but I just don't think it's a slam dunk that it's bye to Alex Condon. Does he want to play in the NBA? Of course he does. But I mean, nowadays with NIL, if Alex Condon is a late first round pick, maybe he goes. But if you're second round pick, there's nothing guaranteed, and
Nothing there.
the money you make NIL wise is certainly enticing enough to keep you around. But it's something he's going to wrestle with, and certainly something he's going to pursue. But I get a yes, no, or a maybe, and I'm just going to go no on that.
Yeah, you're probably right. All right, number 2.
I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just You're probably right.
Number 2 on yes, no, where, or maybe with Chris Harry. The river at the Riverwalk isn't really a river.
Yes, no, or maybe. Is it a yes or no? It is not a river. It's a it's a channel. Have you been there?
No, but I've been to Oklahoma City.
Right. Oklahoma City is a extremely destitute poor man's Riverwalk compared to San Antonio, which is an elite place. They should have every championship at every sport there. I think it'd be a great Super Bowl venue. Great Super Bowl venue.
Yeah, but the trouble is, every year Florida was going to go, they didn't make it there.
Right.
The Chiozzi year, they didn't make it.
Right. Well, it's. I was there in the '90s for a regional finals, but I mean, it's so much better. It's so nice. It's beautifully maintained. Like we had a hotel, like we're on the 9th floor, right overlooking, and there's boats come in to filter it out in the morning, with nets and stuff to clean it up, and they do a really good job. And so many things, so many clubs and restaurants, and just shops and stuff along the way. It's a fantastic venue. So,
Yeah.
but is it a river? No, I'm sure it was man-made, created, and they flooded it, and it's great. It's long, and you spend the whole day on it if you want to.
They didn't seem to enjoy it after the game.
Yeah. I saw someone threw Mike a beer. He caught it with a tall boy. Robbie would be proud. He caught it with one hand and slammed it and threw it back to the guy. It was great. Perfect.
That is perfect. Robbie would be proud. You're right.
He would be proud.
All right. Finally, on yes, nowhere, maybe, you would like to see Walter Clayton's jersey retired at the University of Florida.
Yeah, I would say yes with a caveat. I know that's cheating. I mean, we haven't retired anyone else's jersey.
Yeah.
So,
But there's never been a first team All-American.
There's never been a first team All-American. That's true. I would like to see Walt's jersey retired. I would like to see a nice commemorative thing of him in the dome somewhere. I mean, if you walk around the dome, sometimes you see more pictures of Amanda Butler than you see of Billy Donovan. So let's have a real nice presentation for Walt somewhere. Maybe that would include his jersey, but I would have no problem with that. But then maybe start. How about a jersey that just says 04, and then just kind of go from there. Kind of like, we were late to the party, I think, with the Ring of Honor here. I remember the Bucks went forever and ever without, when I was covering them, without, acknowledging, great players over the year. But it's time for that. And I think I credit Duke Werner here with his first year as the administrative oversight. They did a distinguished Letterman every game, every home game this season, with including Andrew Moten, I believe, was the last one. And they had Dimitri Hill, they had Andrew DeClerc. They went back, I think, they had guys from back in your era when you guys were watching games in Alligator Alley who I didn't know at the time. But I mean, let's reconnect with the past. But maybe Walter Clayton will be kind of like the Pied Piper of that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, just celebrate the past. I mean, whatever they want to do. I mean, Kelsey, of course, went to San Antonio. She wants a statue built, so we'll see if that gets done or not.
You can't have a statue of Walter Clayton without having one of Billy Donovan, I don't think. And I know the court's named after him, but
I know
he is the guy. He is the Godfather.
Well, and that's the other thing. I had a discussion with Scott Strickland about this, about putting pavers out there like they do in football, but then you'd have to do all the All-Americans in gymnastics and swimming.
Probably, but
and volleyball.
There's a lot of places there's a lot of places that do that, Pat.
Yeah, but there's not enough pavers, I don't think, to cover all that. But hey, always great talking to you, Chris. We'll see you Saturday, okay?
See you Saturday. He'll be at the Orange and Blue game or not?
I will be there, yes.
Or be at the post game festivities.
We'll be at both. I will be at both.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks
to Chris. We'll be back with more of another Duly Noted podcast right after we take this break.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Adams Rib Company has been a staple of Gainesville for more than a decade and a staple of the Dooley house ever since Kelsey's teeth came in. The first time I walked into Adams, I told my daughter that the green beans are always a test of a great barbecue restaurant, and they were perfect. You know about the ribs that melt in your mouth, and my favorite, the turkey plate. But be sure to go in on Fridays for Nana's Fish Nuggets. They will melt in your mouth. Adams Rib Co., a Gainesville great.
Meldon Law has been serving personal injury victims since 1971. In those days, Jeffrey Meldon's presence as an attorney in the music scene dubbed him with the nickname the Hippie Attorney. And although times have changed, two things haven't: our commitment to bettering our community by helping the injured,
Albert, are you ready to go to the game?
and our love for the Florida Gators.
If you bleed orange and blue, Meldon Law is the firm for you.
Okay, welcome back to another Duly Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI and Imaging from the Meldon Law Gator Studios here at the Ponderosa. Appreciate Chris Harry for coming on. Not many people have their voice. In fact, I told Dorian, I said, why don't you come on next Thursday? Because I've been listening to him on the
on the Sirius radio, and it's not pleasant. he's really lost his voice. I don't know how much of that is from screaming and yelling, and how much is just from having a great time. Anyway, let us move along to our fun stuff. Let's start with our BMI TeleMed Smart Move of the Week. And of course, BMI TeleMed, your weight loss specialist, achieve and maintain. And if you call 727-383-1677 and say, hey, I heard you mentioned on the Pat Dooley podcast, you get 10% off your deal there. So we've had a lot of people from this area call. A lot of women have called too, which is cool. I didn't know we had that many women listeners. I'm glad we do. Certainly, we appreciate that. But BMI TeleMed, I am using that as well, the semaglutide, and I'm down 10 to 11 pounds. It depends on the day, you know what I mean? But we'll get to the BMI TeleMed Smart Move of the Week right now, and that is this. Really smart move by Florida to have mom was trying to think of what they were going to do. Were they going to have the celebration in the O-Dome Friday before the spring game? Well, you'd rather let as many people as possible be there. And that was smart to do it before the spring game. So, look, it's not going to take any attention away from football. It's not like people are going to go there and then leave, when the football game starts. But it was a very smart move to do that, and also to have two celebrations. I remember when they won it in 06, the first celebration was actually out at the airport, and then the second one was in the O-Dome, and that was certainly the one where the guys all said they were coming back. That was the coolest. That's the best celebration ever. But this one they did, obviously at Flavette, and that was it was packed, mostly students, but packed. And that's cool. And then you have another one. It's just, they really are handling themselves well on this and how to do it. I mean, when I agree with everything you're doing a pretty good job. And that means you made the BMI TeleMed Smart Move of the Week. All right, let us move along to our Hesser and Kipke 3 things, brought to you by our good friends at Hesser and Kipke. Of course, 339-9920 is the number, 352 area code, of course, and www.hklawfl.com. That's how you get a hold of them for any of your issues with workers' comp or with family law. They are the people to deal with, and we appreciate them very much, very much. All right, let's start with Florida softball. Got a win this weekend too. Actually, Wednesday night they went down to Stetson and won 13-5. And I'm wondering if they did that and then they were going to go to the Orlando airport and fly out because they're playing at Ole Miss, or maybe they came back and they're flying out from here. It's a weird to go down to DeLand and play, but they did, and they got a win. Ole Miss this weekend is ranked 19th in the country. So, this is going to be another tough battle. Florida dropped down to 6 after losing the series to Arkansas. But, hey, they're still in great shape. They're still in great shape to host, but they need to keep it going in the SEC. But it was a good win to beat Stetson like that. Florida did really well in that regard. Let's get to number 2 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. And if you didn't watch last night, I started to watch, but when I went to look for it, it was at halftime, so I never went back to it. I stayed with some other things. But the Luka Doncic's return to Dallas was certainly interesting. They showed a video. He started crying during the video. Then he went out and put a 45 burger on him and won the game. They won the game. The Lakers won the game. Which, my history with the Lakers is complicated. I love the Lakers. They were my favorite team from the Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West days, all the way through Magic and all the way through Shaq. But when they traded Shaq and kept Kobe, I dumped the Lakers. Look, nobody can explain the things I do. I just do them. That was one. So I root against the Lakers now. And then when they got LeBron, I really was rooting against the Lakers. But I'm okay with them winning last night. I'm okay with Luka. I love Luka. I love watching him play. They need to, figure out something there. But they did clinch a playoff spot last night. The Lakers did. So it's better having the Lakers in the playoffs because I have something to root against. I don't want to root against him though because I like him as a player. It's complicated with me. Although I should take the approach, like I was saying, I don't want to care about anything anymore. I mean, I cared way too much about all those basketball games. And I'm talking about going way back to the Auburn game in the middle of early in the season it was February, right? And, the Georgia game here, I was at that game. Just so many games where you're in that South Carolina game. I couldn't even watch it. I was watching it on the game tracker because I didn't want to watch it. And they won. And I went, oh my God, I can't believe it. I had to go back and watch it. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's get to number 3 on our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Ken and Jennifer, we appreciate them. And that is a win for lacrosse yesterday, too. They went up to Jacksonville, beat them 17-7. That's what they should do. Playing really well, but that's 8 straight wins for lacrosse. They are going to Boulder to play their next. They have a weird schedule this year, a lot of road trips. But, sometimes that helps you bond. And it'll be interesting to see, not only because now that they're in the Big 12, can they win the Big 12 conference, which is so weird to think about. But can they make a dent in the NCAA tournament? They've got a really good team this year, so we'll see how they're able to do. That is our Hesser and Kipke 3 things. Let's move along to this, that, and the other. It is brought to you by our good friends at Dar Shakow Insurance and by the Ballyhoo Grill. Place to go. I tell you what, it's a great place to go for lunch. There's no doubt about it. In fact, I may be doing that later today. All right, let's get to this, that, and the other. This is that we mentioned before that this was the 6th national championship in the 2 biggest sports. Now, I will say this, basketball and gymnastics draw close to the same numbers, but we know what the attention is, where the attention is. The gymnastics is on the plus, the NCAA tournament. We know where you're paying attention. So those are still the big 2. I think baseball and gymnastics fall into the next thing. And again, they've got 4 national championships in those 2 sports too. But these 6 in the big 2 sports are hugely important. And like we said, no other school in the world has that. They can't say that. They can't say anything. They can't say they've ever had both championships at the same time. Because once Ohio State didn't get into the tournament, that was not going to happen. Anyway, so that is that I decided at the end of the radio show, you know what? I may want to rank them 1 through 6. Maybe I'll do it for a high 5 and high 5 plus 1 and do that. And I started thinking about it. Man, I should do that. That'd be kind of a fun thing to do. That's that. The other is I finally made this decision. I'm not ranking them. You know why? They're all ranked number 1. You're telling me that 06 wasn't, I was like almost in tears in the press room, that 07 with all that those guys went through and how excited it was to be walking back, talking to Lee Humphrey about how he'd broken this record as we're going back to the media room. All that kind of stuff was just so special. This was very special. Right now, it feels like the greatest win ever. But don't forget, 96, grown men crying in the stadium because Florida won the national championship finally. Robbie was saying that, and reminded me of this, that after I think it was after the Terry Jackson long touchdown run, that he turned to me and says, Florida's going to win the national championship. And I looked at him, I said, I couldn't even say anything. I mean, we knew it was possible, but we didn't know it was going to happen. Certainly, 06 was a great one, too, to beat Ohio State out there. That was amazing. And 08 was the hardest one to win because it was, and football was anyway. And Tebow, ending it like that or ending that season like that. But anyway, when you think about it, they're all ranked number one. They're tied for first. There's no 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're all equally as important and as equally as fun. That's the way I'm putting it. So that is our this, that, and the other, brought to you by Darth Shakow Insurance and by Ballyhoo Grill. Let us move along to our Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Week. To me, and again, we love Gallo Car Wash. It's a place to go. You just go there, you take your hands off the wheel and your foot off the brake, and you just let it take you, and you come out with a really clean car, believe me. Sponge of the Week is Alex Condon. Because Alex Condon, that ball's on the ground, and he goes and soaks it up. Throws it over to Walter, lets him enjoy the celebration. So he's definitely our Sponge of the Week because he went and found that ball and made it part of his body. What an effort by him, too. Because if you remember the play at the end of the game, it's like when he didn't shoot it and let it go, everybody kind of froze like they didn't know what they were going to do. I'm saying for a split second. It was like we got to go. And then Condon was the first guy there. So he's a Gallo Car Wash Sponge of the Week. I did want to talk about the quarterback club. And again, we'll let you know as soon as we know when Billy Napier is going to speak to us. Look forward to that. But you can also go and see, you have Laura Rutledge coming up in is it August or July? I had it written down here, but I'll get them for you later. And then Billy Donovan, which I cannot wait for him. He'll be the first speaker to start football season, which is going to be neat. We love Billy, and he'll have some stories. I know that. Maybe I can prod a few of them out of him. My favorite Billy story was after he had lost. I think he had lost in the second round. So he went 4 years where they went out the first weekend after they'd gone to the national title, and then they won the national title. But they took us out for beers and wings at Napolitano's, all the media boys, and Steve McLean was there and Billy. And we're sitting there, we're having a great time. And right towards the end of the night, Antonio English says, "Hey, what happened to that guy from Manhattan that was... I thought he was going to be the next big thing and was going to get a great coaching job." And I stopped her. I said, "Antonia, beating Florida in the first weekend is not that big a deal anymore." And Billy just started laughing. He goes, "All right, that's it. I'm out now." He appreciated it. It was funny. All right. So that quarterback club meetings we'll let you know when we get all the details on it. And we've got more coming. We're just trying to there's one guy they're trying to lock down, and that will start the dominoes, and then we'll let you know all the different speakers. And for $250, you get that trial membership, and you're going to want to come back for the rest of the speakers because it's going to be the best speaker group we've ever had at the Gainesville Quarterback Club. All right, let us get to our Adams Ribco Gator of the Week. We usually do this earlier, but we'll do it right now. And our Gator of the Week is everybody who's getting a ring. Now, there be people who don't get rings, but there are a lot of people that will. I would think that a lot of people will get rings. Sean Kelly and Lee Humphrey. Lee Humphrey's going to have 3 rings now, as will Torian Green. But anybody who's getting a ring, which includes all the players, all the trainers, all the the people that work with us, the strength and conditioning, the nutritionists. They usually get rings for pretty much everybody that when you win a championship like this. So anybody who they felt was worthy of a ring, I feel is worthy of being our Adams Ribco Gators of the Week. And congratulations to all of you, because you all had something to do with this, believe me. I believe in that. If you don't, when we talk about, and sometimes funny about it, all the people that work at UF for football, there's a lot of people working in basketball too that are way behind the scenes that we don't know about. Tracy and Jack and obviously all the assistant coaches who did a tremendous job this year. So you are all the Gators of the Week. Let us move along to our Leonardo's at Millhopper quick pick. We're closing in on, I think after Monday's show, we'll do one more qualifier Monday, and then we'll do a drawing on Thursday for the Leonardo's Pizza of Millhopper Quick Picks. And this is going to be a simple one today. Although I will say this, a lot of you picked FSU to win in baseball. Oh, ye of little faith, as John Reeves used to say. But the Leonardo's at Millhopper Quick Pick is softball. 3 games against the number 18 team in the country. Florida's ranked 6th. On the road. Just give me a number, 0, 1, 2, or 3. If you give me 4, it's not going to be correct. If you give me -1, it's not going to be correct. How many games does Florida win? That's all I want to know. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now again, don't put 4. 0, 1, 2, 3. All right, that'll be our Leonardo's at Millhopper Quick Pick, and then again on Monday we will make one last qualifier for you, and then we'll go ahead and do it. We'll get it done. Okay, it is time for our Hugh Cain Allstate Mayhem moment.
The Gator Nation is in good hands with local Allstate agent Hugh Cain. Stop by Alachua Marketplace Plaza in Alachua and get a free quote today.
Well, here it is. This is the O'Connell Center. We every time we drive by the O'Connell Center, I go that Jim Nance line in 06. There's the O'Connell Center. And these people are losing their minds when this happens, when the game ends. They can't believe it. This was me and Robbie. This is what me and Robbie look like. And then they stormed the court. So you can't say Florida never stormed the court. They stormed the court here. Of course, there's no players to get, or coaches that have to run. That's a good court storming, you have to admit. I've seen a bunch of different views of that. I've seen a bunch of different views of a lot of different places. The swamp, how crazy it got there. Everybody putting videos out. This city was alive, and the university was just wall-to-wall people. I can't believe my wife and Robbie's wife went down into that. They were just having a great time. And hey, look, if you can't celebrate a national championship as a student and rush the court, well, you may be at the wrong school. That's all I'll say. And that is our Hugh Cain Allstate Mayhem moment. There was another cool one with Roy McIlroy's daughter that I was thinking about using, but the only thing about it was, and I don't know if you saw this, she made a putt on the par 3 contest at number 9, and all she had to do was get it started, and they were celebrating. She was like scared because everybody was screaming and yelling, and so she was crying. Poor thing, but it was such a cool moment, and that's what that par 3 contest is about. Anyway, let us move along to our Leonardo's Tequila Smooth Move of the Week, and go beyond with Leonardo's because it is the smoothest tequila you can possibly ask for. Urban Meyer will tell you that. Go beyond. Los Landeros. Appreciate them so much for being a sponsor. And may have some Los Landeros this week. I think this is a good time to celebrate. All right, let us get to our smooth move of the week, and that is our man Fred Ridley. Now, Fred Ridley, many of you know, is a former Florida golfer. Wasn't a great golfer here, but he did win the amateur here, the U.S. Amateur, while he was playing here, and has still got great ties to the university. He's the guy who wanted to build that golf course out on the west side of town, and now he's building it in the city of Alachua because they had issues, county stuff and everything. It's none of my business. But anyway, he is the chairman of the Masters. He's the chairman of Augusta National. He's the man. And I watched his State of the Masters press conference, and you talk about smooth, man. This guy has great answers for everything. He reminds me a little of Scott Strickland in his mannerisms and his voice and the inflection in his voice. But it was really interesting just to listen to him talk about things. The transparency's there. And they're very transparent compared to what they used to be. And he's helped that. He also pointed out that they're going to look at this, what is it called, drive, chip, and putt competition with the kids, because one kid took too long to putt because he was lining it up from 8 different directions. They're about pace of play, and that includes drive, chip, and putt. So really interesting press conference if you're into golf, if you're into the Masters, and if you're into just the state of the game. So he was our smooth move of the week. Los Linderos Tequila Go Beyond. As smooth as an Urban Meyer special teams play. That's my slogan that I came up with. All right. It is time for us to wrap it up with our swamp games of the weekend. Now, there are other games going on, but we're going to give you the ones that we care about. And first of all, start with the Masters. The Masters is going to be on. If you have Paramount Plus, you can stream it you can stream it on ESPN Plus too. I was watching it earlier. It's featured pairings and some Amen Corner, stuff like that. But for just regular people, it'll be on 3 to 7:30 on Thursday, 3 to 7:30 on Friday, and that's, of course, CBS. And then, or I think that's ESPN. And then on Saturday and Sunday, it's on CBS. Saturday's 3 to 7. Sunday is 2 to 7. And they did extend the times. They're putting more on. People remember when all they would show is the back nine? I mean, they would come on at like 4:30, and they'd only show you the back nine. When you think about what we have now in this world, that doesn't seem possible. But yeah, that's the way it was. Of course, lacrosse. I did want to mention lacrosse. You can watch it on ESPN Plus Saturday at 4:00 again at Colorado in Boulder. Could be snowing there. Who knows? That's cool that they're going out there. Maybe they'll see Prime while they're out there. Baseball, we mentioned that these are games against Missouri are Thursday, Friday, Saturday this week. Today's game is at 7 o'clock on the SEC network, so you can watch that on regular SEC network. Friday is 6:30 on the Plus, SEC Plus. And then Saturday back on the SEC network for a 5 o'clock game. So it's almost set up perfect. You go to the celebration, you watch the spring game, you go over to baseball, you have a full day. Sounds good to me. Somebody said that it might be raining, but I looked at the forecast and it looked like it's going to be perfect all weekend. And certainly was perfect for them to come back as celebration. I mean, it was cool, but not cold. It was warm, but not hot. It was like a perfect day for that. And then let's get to softball. All these games are on the SEC Plus, just so you know. They play at Ole Miss, as we mentioned, 7 o'clock on Friday, 3 o'clock on Saturday, and 2 o'clock on Sunday. So those are our swamp games of the weekend. Plenty of stuff to watch. Believe me, I'll be over there watching some stuff because now I can get in there a little bit easier. I mean, I will say this. My man Ryan has set Kelsey up so many times when we didn't think she could get in, but she got it. He got her in. So, and she loves going to watch the games. Boy, she loves going to watch games. All right. That's going to do it for our show today. I appreciate everybody for listening, for watching, and our special guest, Chris Harry. Always like him. Don't forget Coach Spurrier on Monday, and then Chris Doring on next Thursday. And, of course, Robbie will be on for Yes, No, Where, Maybe as well. We'll be back with that show on Monday. Until then, for Zach Rothrock, our incredible producer, I am Pat Dooley saying I am deep, I'm way back, and I am out of here.